Live from your home of wearable tech that drives us crazy, you're listening to Techies Talking Tech Tonight, colloquially known as T4. I'm your host, Trey Comstock, and it is Wednesday, June the 3rd, 2015. I am joined as ever by Executive Editor Jimmy Principe.
Hello, Internet.
Hello indeed. On tonight's program, we have a couple new devices, or at least new to us devices, with us in the studio. And the first one is the one we've been waiting for 5 weeks. It is the Apple Watch. Here, there it is. Wrong camera. There it is. Apple Watch. Let me tap it.
Make it go.
You just can't. It just doesn't.
See, there's the fundamental flaw right there.
So we have, and this is an Apple Watch.
Guess what? I don't have to tap a button. I
know. I've had one of those. Thank you. For the audio listeners, Jimmy is holding up his Pebble Steel. I didn't have Pebble Steel. I had a regular Pebble, but it's the same software. So this is an Apple Watch, 40 in the stainless steel, 42 millimeters, with leather, whatever they call this, the textured leather band. So. On the surface of it, I like the way it looks. When I first got it, even my father-in-law, who, kind of grew up in the kind of East Coast Blue Bloods kind of areas, has seen a lot of nice watches in his day. Not a watch guy himself, but kind of knows what nice watches are. He complimented it, thought it looked a lot nicer than he thought it would. That's kind of been everyone's reaction is, oh, wow, that really does look nice. And it does. My father tried it on tonight. We just had a kid, and so everyone's in town. I'm not so much operating a home studio at this point as a train station. No joke. Like, my mother-in-law has been here for weeks. My father-in-law, my brother-in-law were in town. My parents are in town now. And then Sydney's grandmother and aunt and uncle are going to be in town for the weekend. It's a train station, man. So everyone who's been passing through the train station has got, because the Apple Watch arrived about the same day as the child did. It's pretty funny, but they arrived within 12 hours of each other. I like the way it looks on my wrist. The notifications work. They're not as intense as the Pebble because the Apple Watch hands off with the iPhone. So if the iPhone's open, if your screen's unlocked, you don't get a notification on your watch. If the screen's locked, you get it. You can do that with Pebble, but
there's a way to set that up with the Pebble, but I'm going to be honest, it doesn't work perfectly.
It's fiddly. And so when I was using the Pebble, I was getting notifications in both places all the time, slightly one off of the other. It was driving me insane. And I don't have that problem with this. Those people who have talked about a lag, that the Apple Watch just isn't as responsive, are absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
You lift it up.
So like app launching,
all of it. And for me, I don't launch a ton of apps. The app thing.
It's not really.
Except the Uber app, which I'll talk about here in a second. Except for the Uber app, I'm not really using apps on it. I'm mostly using the cards and the notifications and the clock face. And that's kind of although the MLB app works really well. You just get a live updates of scores. And I like that. Because that's useful. But the Uber, I guess I'll talk about the Uber app now because I'm thinking about apps. So the Uber, you can call the car and then track the car's progress to you. And that's useful on a watch face. Not the calling the car bit, but the tracking the car bit. I really like that on the app.
Well, because then you can look down at your watch and say, oh, the car's almost here. We need to go outside.
Right. So that's useful. That's a good glanceable thing. So when I lift up the watch face, it takes a second for the watch face to show up. And then it takes a second for the notification to load. Now, it does do it automatically. If you get if you feel the taptic engine, you feel the vibration, and you lift up your watch, it is going to automatically show you that notification. It's going to show you the text message or the email, which is most of the notifications that I get, or the Facebook Messenger as well. But it takes a second for it to load. And so there's a second for it to realize, oh, you want me to show a thing, and then another second to show the thing. And so that is a little slow.
Does it feel like it's kind of not working quite right?
It's Apple, so they hide it behind an animation. But I know game design well enough to know that an animation is disguising a load, just like a elevator is disguising a load, right? Or an elaborate door unlocking thing is hiding a load. It's hiding a load, right? Apple can do animations faster than that. I've seen them, right? So there's a speed issue. But that's not actually my biggest issue with the watch. The thing that absolutely drives me crazy is getting it to show the damn clock face. It's a watch.
But it's a watch. You'd think that would
watch.
be the easy thing.
So its default, you can see it, is black. Is nothing. Nothing on there. You can wake it by tapping it, which is great, but that's a two-handed operation and not all that subtle at all. You can raise it up like that. And you have to do a very definite motion of, I am looking at my watch now. And that's kind of rude. Because usually so I'm normally a watch wearer, and I have to monitor broadcasts and worship services and shows where timing is very important. But also, I'm usually monitoring this while on. So I'm not being rude in checking the time. My job is to make sure something stays on time. I trained as a stage manager, right? And that's very hard. Jimmy can attest to this. It's very hardwired into me. Is this, stage manager? I gotta know.
You do like making the trains run on time.
Yeah, no, I do.
Continuing the train station analogy,
it, right? I make the trains run. But part of making the trains run is knowing what time it is. And so I have very subtle movements where I just sort of angle my wrist towards me and glance down. And sometimes the Apple Watch is able to do that, and sometimes it's not. And so half the time, I'm looking at my watch and nothing's there. And that drives me nuts.
Because then you feel like you have to tap it or do something more obvious.
Right. And so now I've wasted 5 seconds trying to look at my damn watch. Oh, man. The first, so and I was admittedly, my child, the first day I had this, my child was born, so I was looking at my watch a lot, right? How long, there's a lot of timing. I'm not going to get into the details of the miracle of life, but there's a lot of timing involved in it. And Sydney's listening to this, so I'll spare you all the details, but there's a lot of timing. You just got to know how long has it been in between this thing? How long have we been at this? All of these things. And so I was looking at my watch a ton. Plus I was just, stressed and bored. And when you're ADHD like I am, you look at that's why I wear a watch. And half the time I was looking down, my watch wasn't working. Now, under not the strain of childbirth, I'm a little less mad at it. Right?
That's not a fully unqualified statement.
Right. I'm a little less, look, political communications was my other degree, right? Stage management and political communications. I'm a little less mad at it. But that's still, there isn't, or I can't find it. There isn't a setting to just say, hey, screw the battery life, leave it on. There just isn't that. Or there isn't turn up the sensitivity on this damn sensor for more subtle motions. There isn't that. So sometimes I'll be driving and my watch face will pop up, wasting battery life. And sometimes I'll want to look at my watch face. I'll do a subtle movement and it won't do it. So that, for me,
how has the battery life been, though?
Better when I wasn't checking it every 3 seconds because I was waiting on Thomas to be born. It's made it through a day fine. But also,
okay.
I'm not working full days right now. But it even made it through my Sunday, which is like a 16-hour day.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it. But also, I'm not, I'm using it like I used the Pebble. I'm not using it for the apps. Because I think the boarding pass apps are okay. I have used Apple Pay with it. I bought a bottle of water at the hospital. Because
did they look at you funny?
What? No, because it was the middle of the night. But so it's Emory Midtown, and Emory's endowed by Coca-Cola, not the Koch brothers. It's a little better at least. So we have all the latest tap to pay stuff in the Coke machines all over Emory.
Well, that's cool.
I tap to pay. And all of that works. It does. Much like the Pebble, actually. It does most, at least, of what it claims to do. The only thing that I think is total garbage is the stand-up, sit-down notifications. It will tell me to stand up when I'm already standing. It will congratulate me for being standing while I'm very clearly laying on the couch. The stand-up, sit-down, maybe it's because I gesticulate too much or wear my watch too loose or whatever. That's total garbage. Total garbage. Because it's the first day it said I'd been standing for 12 hours. I could believe that. I was on my feet a ton. Again, I was helping deliver a child. Miracle of life and all that. Involves a lot of standing on the part of the dad. Oddly, not
Right.
a lot of standing on the part of the mom. Interesting how that goes.
Let's not go any further down that path.
Just saying. I'm just saying. So then I believe that I stood for 12 hours, but I don't believe that I stood for. It's saying I stood for 6 hours a day. I don't think that's true. So that, I think, is total garbage. I haven't tested the fitness stuff. I have ordered.
How does the heart rate sensor work?
It works, but it only samples every 10 minutes. And you can make it sample more often, but Apple, that used to be treated like a bug, and then Apple changed their website that, hey, that's just it's a feature, that it only samples every once in a while. It seems to be pretty accurate. It is using technology that could capture an accurate thing. So I think it works, but it doesn't do what I want, which is I want constant heart rate monitoring. Now, again, with the always on screen, I want things that are going to crater the battery life. But
Yep.
I'm sorry, that's what's wrong with the device. You can tell me we need to save battery life. Well, then maybe you shouldn't have gone with such a nice screen. Or maybe 100 other things. That's a design
Maybe you didn't need a
choice.
touch screen.
Maybe you didn't need a touch screen. Maybe you didn't need this retina level display. I mean, there's 100 different things you could have done differently. You made a design choice that limits your battery life. And so you're having to pull back on features and drive me insane because you made a design choice. Don't act like you were just limited by the technology, right? All things are limited by the technology, but that's the challenge that you set, right? The limits of physics or the limits of our current battery technology is always a challenge that is set. You make decisions based on that. And they made a choice to go so feature heavy that they've had to make this always off screen that's driving me nuts and limiting the heart rate sensing.
So I will say that because I've seen a number of Apple Watches in the wild at this point, and it always is really disconcerting because I always see them from a distance, and the screen is always off. So you see someone that's sitting there with their watch, and I have a Pebble, right? So it's not really going to be bright and shiny, but there's something on the screen. No, it's this very smooth, rounded thing
with dead eyes.
That's just off.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so for me, it's almost like I understand that it's a better hardware device. I understand that they changed how you interact with it. But in a lot of ways, it still feels like we're at this point of what the Nano was, where it was like, okay, you have an MP3 player strapped to your wrist. That's cool, I guess.
I mean, it's pretty.
That's the way I feel about Android Wear as well. That's not just an Apple Watch, and that is the reason why I went with this smartwatch. I did because I wanted the smartwatch that had always on screen, and I didn't have to compromise on battery life.
I think were I not a would-be tech journalist that felt the need for us to have a broad range of coverage, I would have I've ordered a Pebble Time Steel and been done with it. I think that's. I think that's true.
I'm still not convinced. I will probably end up with one by the end of the year.
Now, I'll say this.
I need to see what the watch bands they come out with are.
One of my problems with this can be changed in software. You can change how it handles clock faces in software. I don't think that's fundamentally a hardware problem. And I would sacrifice some battery life for it, right? Because most of the time, I work 10, 12-hour days usually. But I don't need my watch all 10 to 12 hours then, right? In fact, a lot of it is I'm sitting in front of a MacBook Pro clicking for hours, and all of my notifications already pop on my MacBook Pro. So I can just take my watch off and set it aside. And that's, when I wore a mechanical watch, that's what I did. I took my watch off because I wanted my wrist screen. Now, this is lighter than my other watch, and smaller than my other watch. And so I actually am able to wear it while typing, which is new.
Well, and I do that. I take my watch off when I'm at work because I don't need it. So I have a computer. When
I'm at my station kind of working on a computer, everything, and I have a MacBook Pro, and handoff works really well, right? My continuity, my text messages pop in the upper right-hand corner, my emails pop. All of that works well enough that I don't need this. And so I would be willing to have just kind of it's off now. Oh, I'm wearing it. It's on now. I think a lot of this is positive. I don't want this to be a totally negative review. There is one thing that truly drives me crazy, and it is too expensive. Fundamentally, that remains.
Well, especially for what it is.
It's a quality product. It's well built. It's incredibly well built. It comes in a display box, and they're really playing up the premium angle here. Absolutely. But fundamentally, for what it accomplishes functionality-wise, it's not a $700 device. This is not better than my original iPad, which was $630. That had more functionality. I was wrong about iPads, but I didn't think I was at the time. And I stand by that. The promise of the iPad, you have to live with one to truly experience how useless they are. And I think, for me...
A solution in search of a problem.
So, I've ordered... I don't have a fitness... whatever they're called.
The sports band?
Sports band for this one yet, but I've ordered it. So in the next couple of weeks, I'll be able to talk about the fitness aspect. Right now, I have a leather band. I'm going to sweat through it in one workout and never be able to wear that band again. So I'm not... Also, I don't have a lot of time to work out at this particular juncture. But I've ordered a sports band.
That whole having a kid thing.
Yeah. So I've ordered a sports band in green, of course, like everything else.
Because sometimes it just needs to be green.
Sometimes it just needs to be green. And you can make the second hand green, which is nice. There's not a lot of watch faces. That's disappointing. And apps are stupid. It's just, why do I need a Flipboard app on my watch? Well, I have one.
So this is the thing I don't understand. So the thing about watch faces, that's a criticism for other smartwatches, but it's not a criticism for Apple's, and I don't understand why that is.
Well, so the ones you have a bunch, and they look nice. Some of them. The butterfly ones.
Well, I mean, but if you look at like the LG watches in particular, the watch faces and the hardware built around it. So part of the reason why the Urbane is as big as it is because of the amount of battery that's in it. That was LG's solution to the technology problem, was they just shoved more battery in it.
There's another. So the watches look very, very nice. This one's a chronograph, one that I've been kind of flirting with using.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, I think part of it is we believe they're going to add more watch faces. This is Apple. They're going to add more over time.
Right. So I don't know. I think that the other interesting thing with the Apple Watch was, I feel like with the tech press in a large way, it happened, it was released, but because there weren't lines about it, people lining up to buy them, there was no story.
Yeah.
There's no story. The story is, smartwatches are a thing, and the Apple Watch is selling really well.
Yeah, 32,000 a day.
That's all we have are numbers by some agency. We don't have unlike with iPhones and iPads, we don't have the visual confirmation.
Well, they bollocksed the launch.
Yeah, they did.
They bollocksed it.
And
you talk about supply issues or whatever. It was a bad launch.
Well, and the thing is that I think that they will be dealing with the fact that because of that, I don't think that this generation of Apple Watch will ever shake that feeling of being beta hardware. Or being not beta, but
it is beta hardware. That's how it. Okay, so let's think about this. Original MacBook Air, beta. Original iPhone didn't even have 3G. It was beta. Original iPad was so much based off of the iPhone that it wasn't.
It doesn't really count.
Doesn't really count, but
there's a reason why people showed pictures of just 4 iPods taped together.
Right. Apple has a history of doing exactly this, at least recently, of their new kind of totally new entries into products, Ultrabooks, smartphones, whatever, are essentially beta hardware, and the second gen gets it right. My problem with the Apple Watch in that regard is it's too darn expensive for that to be the case.
And it's entering a market, and this has been my problem with it all along. And actually, this is just part of my problem with smartwatches, because a lot of them are priced at that kind of high-end watch.
Nothing point. Like the Apple Watch.
And then the Apple Watch is twice as much as that.
Yeah.
you look at, your LG Urbane, it's $350.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for $350, you either have to give me a bunch of functionality or it's got to last for
Well,
more than
look,
a year.
I think in
With
terms of
the Apple
holding
Watch,
together as a device, the Apple Watch is going to last more than a year.
yeah, it'll hold together, but you run into those problems of
But it's going
how
to become obsolete.
it'll become obsolete and you won't be able to replace the battery.
Yes, you can. The
Um,
battery is replaceable.
oh, is the battery replaceable? I thought the
Yes.
battery was part of what was enclosed in the
No. The
resin.
battery is replaceable.
Okay, well that's good.
It can
But
only be done by theoretically by an Apple technician, but the battery is replaceable.
anyways, the fact that you have this device that is $700-800, you can spend up to
Well, you can send up to
$1,050.
$18,000.
Yeah, but that's a
But in
farce.
terms of something that a realistic human's going to buy, you're spending like $10.50.
For the one that and it looks really slick.
Oh yeah,
It 1050 for $1,050.
it's a MacBook Air.
I need something that's going to last longer than a year.
Well, what do you mean by last?
As far as like, am I going to get the next software bump?
Yes, you'll get the
Is
next.
it going to
software.
make
It's
it
Apple.
better?
You're going to get the next software bump. It will make it better. But
Maybe.
you're not going to be happy about that because the next Apple Watch is going to be a lot better. It's not. Look, Apple's not as bad as Android in this regard. You can guarantee
Android manufacturers specifically.
Android as an ecosystem to live in this regard.
Look,
Because
man, I've
you
been
know
burnt one too many times.
You can guarantee you will get, for the next 2 years, you're going to get all the software updates. And you can guarantee when you're going to get them, the day they come out. And so Apple is going to support this thing, and it is going to improve this thing. And a year from now, when they release the new Apple Watch, this watch will get better as a result of the new watch operating system. But we're all going to be mad because the things that are wrong with this one will be right. Some of them will be right in the next one, and we'll all go, oh, but we really want that one because it's so much better. So it's not... This watch is only going to get better over time until the battery dies, and then you're going to be mad because you have to replace the battery. But until the battery dies, it's only going to get better over time. It's an Apple product, and they absolutely do. And they're good about supporting things within a 2 to 3 year time window. I mean, think about how long they supported the 4S with the new OSs, right?
Yeah, they got into a problem with the 4S though because people were selling 4S as new when 5S was out.
Right. Look, there were some, but again, in terms of being an owner of a 4S.
Yeah, no, I mean that was good. I mean, they're not Android. Android Wear, you're all screwed.
You are, in a year, you are going to be jealous of the people of the new Apple Watch and be very compelled to buy another one because they're going to fix a lot of these problems. But they're not going to totally abandon this watch right away. They don't. At this point, they have a long history of not doing that. Right?
Let's hope that they continue that with the watch.
Yes, and I see no reason why they wouldn't.
I'm just hoping that
Okay, unless they truly radically change the hardware, but even still.
which might be a possibility. The problem with the watch market right now is it's still a little bit too, no one's really fixed all of the problems, including Apple.
Well, the battery life's the problem now.
The problem is features versus battery life.
Yeah.
Apple went for features, other people are going battery life.
Pebbles going battery life.
You say that. Other manufacturers are making the form factor larger to accommodate more battery.
Then you have the ugly problem. So much of Android, a few Android manufacturers do not suffer from this. The Urbane, for instance. Whatever the Huawei one is. Those two, apparently the new Moto 360. Even the old Moto 360 wasn't terrible.
I don't like the Moto 360 had the problem of the bit on the bottom, so it wasn't a perfect circle.
Right. Then the Pebbles, at this point in history, the Steels especially, look good. The Apple Watch looks good. So much of the Android Wear market has sacrificed looks in a wearable. Samsung, we're looking at you, for tech ability, which is not a good choice. Some point someone needs to learn the lesson of Steve Jobs. Design is not a secondary feature.
Well, and Samsung has kind of learned that with the most recent
Phones. Yes,
phones.
finally. But think how long that took.
Oh yeah, no, I
This is the Galaxy S6. Remember the Drek? For years, it was a butt of a joke. And their watches still are.
oh yeah.
And even some of the LG stuff. I mean, LG with the Guach was they finally Guach R or whatever, the one that looked like a G-Shock that I'm
The
told is stylish,
the G Shock R, it looks like a G Shock. So if you like a G Shock,
which I
then you'll
don't.
like it.
Which I don't.
Then you won't like it. But
I get.
as
There's a
something that
difference
looks like
between
a G Shock.
there's a difference between objectively ugly and a style I don't like.
Yeah, and
The
it's a
original
style you
Samsungs
don't
were
like.
just objectively ugly.
And I'd say the G Watch R was the first one that was like that I saw in person and went, yeah, that actually looks pretty good.
If you
The
like
Moto
G-Shock.
360 didn't look that good in person.
But
It had a cheap leather band.
yep, it didn't look as awful as its predecessor. That's
That's
very much
true.
a product of its time. Compared
true.
to what else was out then, it was miles ahead. Miles.
It was the first round to come out. I mean, it was, and they
even
had to
Apple
make
didn't
some
go round.
sacrifices to do that.
Now, this is also not my first non-round watch, so that doesn't phase me. I like the way this one looks. The compromises it makes for battery life, what it makes for love, just bothers me. Bothers me. So Jimmy, since we've talked about Apple for 26 minutes, we should probably give Microsoft a plug because this is our show, right? Right.
I think we need to wash our mouth out a little bit.
Yeah.
So I have the new Microsoft Halpong. I mean, Halpage thing. Hoppage thing. Apparently, we've been mispronouncing this all along, but we will continue to mispronounce it.
Keep doing it because it's stuck now.
So the Microsoft had in one of their preview builds released drivers in the U.S. for a TV tuner for your Xbox One.
That had been released in Europe a while ago.
Oh yeah, it wasn't part of the original release, but it was like a shortly after patch. But they did not release it in the United States. And so when they released this preview build, they said, yeah, go buy this Halpong. It'll work with the Microsoft hardware because it's basically just a computer. Well, when they released the May update that gave everyone the TV tuner ability in the United States, they also simultaneously released a TV tuner adapter that
was just a repackage of this.
It was just a repackaged Halpong that had Xbox One branding on it, but it was cheaper. So, and they were selling bundles, so you could get like a powered antenna if you didn't already have one. You get a powered antenna for like $15 extra or something. It was a pretty good deal. I already have an antenna, so I didn't need that. So it was sold out on Amazon. I bought mine directly from Microsoft. Had it delivered. I've been using it for about a week now, and it works really well. So the fundamental setup process was plug thing into USB port. Actually, it comes with a little extender cord. Plug thing into USB port. Connect antenna to coax. And then you have to go into the Xbox and scan for channels and like any other
TV in the 90s.
But the difference with the Xbox is you tell it what your zip code is. And so it knows what channels it's looking for. So it asks you, hey, what's your zip code? You put it in, it pulls up, okay, we found all these channels. And then I get to use One Guide like everybody else. I can also have play
like
pause. Yeah, not like you.
I've never used One Guide.
One
I don't
Guide.
know why not, except that my dish DVR works not great, but fine.
Yeah, so One Guide is useful for over the air because that's something that
you wouldn't normally have.
You don't normally have, and also there are companies that are selling tuners just to sell you their, for example, TiVo. They're selling you the Romeo because they want you to buy a TiVo and then pay their little subscription plan to get the guide. So it's interesting with Xbox moving into this because I could see a future where you may be able to leverage the Xbox, or there will be people that will just hack it. You can leverage the Xbox, where you might be able to leverage the Xbox hard drive in order to record DVR like
So you
stuff.
mean like Windows Media Center circa 2005?
Exactly. And one of the things that happened in Windows 10 is Windows Media Center is dead, is gone.
Totally dead. It's an
Uh,
optional download for Windows 8.
right, but it is completely gone with Windows 10. And I think that you're seeing a lot of the features that people looked for in Windows Media Center being very purposefully moved to the Xbox. And this was one of those where I'm sure the pressure from the networks, they said, no, don't put it in. You know, you're going to get all this other stuff from
Pirates.
us. And finally, yeah, the pirates.
Well, I mean, so the issue is not how the issue was how Windows Media Center did it. It just outputted it as a file, which you
Right.
could then just upload wherever, including YouTube, and you could just pirate this. It made piracy very, very easy. And I think the broadcast model, they're just totally screwed. But you could just rip this thing, cut out the commercials, and upload it, and they made no money.
And they didn't get credit for the viewership either.
Right. And they
That
didn't
was
get
the
credit
biggest
for the
thing.
viewership.
So anyways, I can play pause up to 30 minutes of live TV, which is nice. I mean, it basically all of the things that I tried to get my simple.tv to
Yeah.
do, this does far simpler
But it
and
doesn't-
far more streamlined,
But without the DVR thing,
minus the DVR.
which
But
is a huge feature.
that is a huge feature, and something that I do wish I had. However, this removes a lot of my reasons for getting like a Sling TV sort of thing,
Sure.
other than ESPN. That's my main reason for getting Sling TV. Also, I was on my Comcast account today, and I've forgotten that like they just give me cable because I
Which
have such
includes
ridiculous
ESPN, I
internet.
assume.
Yeah, so I get ESPN 360 or ESPN 3 because of my cable being whatever through Comcast. So I can log into my Comcast account on ESPN, and
Did you by chance get NBC Sports?
I might. You're looking for soccer or
Formula
F1?
I'm not, I don't dislike soccer. I do like watching the FIFA drama. That's great.
That is great.
Sepp Blatter went down. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't actually know about NBC Sports, but it's worth looking. I'll look into it for you. See if
Because I'm
that's
actually
something that I
looking at
get.
cutting the cord. So I'm about to move cities, and right now we have this Uber Dish Network package where we get like every channel under God's green earth, and it's nice. I can watch 4 hours of Velocity, which I might have done today. Parenting.
Well, and the other thing is that you get to this point where, as a cord cutter, I've been a cord cutter now for 4 years, and you get to this point where you just accept that you're not going to be up on the latest episode of Game of Thrones unless you
Right.
pirate it.
But
Like,
those are literally things I don't care. I don't. That's not. I have HBO because it's included in our rent, and so I don't have control over what's in my cable package or satellite package. So I have HBO. I even like 2 HBO shows, and I just don't record them. I watch despite the fact that I get HBO, I watch John Oliver on YouTube.
so do I. I mean, like all
Why?
normal
Which
people.
makes no sense. I have HBO. I should just now set my DVR for that. I use it for just kind of periodically. I want to sit down and watch a lot of Pawn Stars. It's not about the latest episode of anything. It's, I have a DVR full of, the end of 19 Kids and Counting. Let's be clear, it ain't coming back from this.
No, it's not.
We're just hot topics today. And so I used to be for Top Gear. Top Gear's over. It used to be for 19 Kids and Counting. 19 Kids and Counting. It's like Mad Men's over. It's like the shows I care about are going away. And so it's not a lot about particular things.
Well,
It's
the other
about
thing
the
is,
kind
when
of-
you're
but it is about
watching-
Formula One. Formula One's important.
When you're watching DVR of it, I can easily make an argument, and I know that you already do this with a lot of stuff. Of is it worth just investing in the digital copy where you
So
get the episode automatically?
for the
Because
stuff that
then,
truly matters to me,
right, not 19 Kids and Counting,
not 19,
but
but
like
Mad Men.
Mad Men.
So I have every episode of Mad Men I bought through iTunes. Every episode of MythBusters I buy through iTunes. There's a few other shows that used to be like that for me. Bones. I have every episode of Bones, even though it's not great now. I've
But
commented on this before.
but
These
you
are
think
shows
about the
I really
fact.
care about.
You think about the. Oh, I mean, so you don't have to cut the cord if you're getting the internet package that I have, the Comcast internet package I have. You just have to rent the cable box
Sure.
or the DVR. So
Well,
you just
really-
have to, or you buy it at TiVo.
Right, which is
or
probably
you
what I do,
Get
actually.
a cable card that connects to your Xbox One or something. I mean, you work this out. There's other ways to work through this now. You don't have to go through the traditional rent the thing from the cable company.
Right.
But whatever way you decide to go, you still do get basic cable. So you'd still get ESPN and you still get
But ESPN...
Geo,
Yeah,
Nat
so-
Geo.
So Nat Geo and Discovery and History Channel mattered to me. Those
I
are
think
the
the-
three
I
that
think
will
you still
find
get
myself watching.
at least two of those three. I'm not actually Nat Geo is the one I'm not positive about.
Okay, but so
But
there is
you
a
do still
show
get-
on the Discovery Channel I'm still attached to.
Discovery Channel and
Fast and Loud. This you guys are finding out. These are the things I watch. It's the non-competitive reality shows.
but what I found at this point is that you just don't think about okay, what's on my DVR, which is what most people are thinking
Which
about.
is that is what I think about.
I think about what's on Netflix, what's on Amazon Prime, what's on whatever. Except I don't have to remember to set it to record or clear it out of my DVR when it's done, or if it's something that I really want.
Don't make it sound like that's a huge hassle.
No. But it's not. But it's just one more thing. Like,
Yeah. But, I mean,
once you have it set up, it just
So-
goes. That's
right.
fine.
So many years ago, I set it up to record all new Formula One races, and I don't even think about it. And it shows up on my DVR, and I watch it. I don't, they record at ungodly times because it's all over the world, and so I just sit down, usually Monday, when I get back from work, and watch the race. We're 19 Kids and Counting. It's just, I set that up a long time ago, and it just goes year after year after year, baby after baby after baby. It's, I watched, they have a 3-hour special, 10 years of Duggar births. It's frightening. Baby Thomas and I have been watching this over the past few nights.
Is he scarred as well?
He should be. He
So,
should be.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where the Halplong tuner connected to the USB port on the Xbox One is just the best solution for me. And then coupled that with the fact that there is a media player piece or a program
Mm-hmm.
that will recognize my media files on my media server,
Assuming they're the right formats.
assuming that they're the right
And
formats,
not from
which
iTunes.
if they're iTunes are not the right formats. But
Yeah, you laughed at us. I have $2,000 worth of media tied up in iTunes.
oh no, I did. That's why I'm just kind of like, yeah, whatever. I just keep rolling with it.
It's
But
a problem.
because I broke the DMCA, I have copies of
Blu-rays.
of DVDs and Blu-rays.
But you're not. Look, you're not.
I'm not
Yes, you
distributing.
broke the DMCA, but you're not doing it for the terrible. You're not sharing them, right? And
I'm
so-
not sharing them. No, I still actually physically have all of the DVDs and Blu-rays that I have the copies of. So I don't really actually feel bad about this. So I can look at those things. I can watch those from the comfort of my couch.
It just needs a DVR. I would
Um,
agree with you on all of this if it had a DVR.
Yeah, the DVR functionality is the one thing that's missing. It's the one thing I hope that either Microsoft rolls out or a third party rolls out, or this is all going to become irrelevant because the networks are going to realize that they're losing too much money to people streaming over the air, and so they'll get rid of their over the air.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah, it has to do something with their federal stuff, right? Or they'll
Right.
start broadcasting at such low power that
Or just pull some, or
which
do. So what
CBS
Fox threatened to do
does.
wasn't get rid of Fox necessarily, or what someone threatened to do. It wasn't get rid of their broadcast channel. It was just move the stuff you actually want off of the broadcast channels. They'd leave like the news, the local news, the nightly, all the kind of news programming, but they'd move like the primetime shows and the sports onto a cable channel. And that, I think, is what you have to worry about more than the end, because they get, you know,
The problem
the
is
president needs to be able to address the nation. There's all these kind of things tied up with the broadcast networks.
well, the other thing is that the problem has become that originally they were all over the air and they made money off of advertising. And then they made more money off advertising. Then they finally got to a point where they're like, okay, we can't advertise anymore without turning an hour show into a half-hour show.
Well, it's already
So,
42 minutes.
Yeah. Depends on the show. Some are 40 minutes.
I know.
I've seen 40.
BBC America's 48, which I like.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
I like that.
But anyway, so you're looking at this and you're like, okay, you couldn't advertise anymore. And so then they just started selling it to cable channels. So or cable distributors. So that was the whole thing with Cablevision.
Yep.
That the Cablevision wasn't paying them enough to have their content, and Cablevision said, "Screw you! All right, everyone, go get your antenna and watch it yourselves."
OVA OTT.
So
On next week's show, we should have an update on baby monitoring tech. I'm hoping to take my delivery of my MIMO, baby activity monitoring system. I already have my drop cam set up. I've already noticed it sucks down a lot of data, so which is something people warned about.
and then I'll have more adventures in enterprise tech.
Yeah, so that should be exciting. If you have any comments about this show or things you want to see us talk about, podcast at textlastcall.com, facebook.com/textlastcall, pinterest.com/textlastcall, or at textlastcall on the Twitters. Good night. I have Dead Eyes as a title.
Yeah. Or Apple Watch has dead eyes.
Apple Watch has dead eyes. They are just the deadest eyes.
It's really dead eyes. Oh, did I tell you I broke a Fitbit?
No.
I
Although
broke
my Apple Watch tells me I've worked out since midnight. I haven't stood up since midnight. This thing is garbage when it comes to activity monitor. It's just because I've been moving my arms. I can't.
See, that's the funny thing,
counts
because
as working out.
Fitbit knows that.
Right.
It counts. It has a couple of those that it'll count, but
Wrist monitoring.
they overtrack.